And now we're pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
I'm going to get really verbal and I want to remember what I'm saying and doing. Architects are really used to designing architecture on Earth under the conditions that we're really used to on Earth. But they're not used to designing architecture in orbit, on the moon, or Mars. And I've realized from my practical meditations of that environment, plus my practical experience in shops, in factories, making stuff, breaking stuff, fixing stuff, which includes centrifugal filters and things for big diesel generators, how all those loads and things work. That von Braun, the first head of NASA, when he designed the space station, he was wrong. There's another guy, I can't remember his name, O'Neill, designed a space station. Both of those guys were wrong. They made a critical oversight in how they philosophically look at space architecture. An architect here on Earth, they build a building, understanding that there's a formula for these things, right? And one of the things they use as a constant that's actually a variable is G. G. And for the sake of argument, let's describe three types of G. You have natural gravity, you have artificial gravity, and you have combined gravity. Okay? So an example of each would be Earth has a G value of 1. The moon has a G value of 1/6, give or take, and Mars 1/3 respectively. Okay? Artificial gravity is that force or that effect that we utilize when we want to filter heavy particulates out of a fluid and we spin it. And the particulates go to the sides because of artificial gravity. And that we can apply that to our benefit in space if we can arrange architecture that allows at least some part of the architecture to spin. Because when you spin stuff, you get a field effect, however you'd want to describe it, right? And the nitpicky mathematician guys, they say artificial or centrifugal force isn't a force, and then they stop the conversation by digressing into an argument. So we call it artificial gravity as a nomenclature. An example of combined gravity is when on the moon you put a mag rail track in a circle, and you put a high-speed train that is designed so it doesn't have a front and a back, but it's all in a ring. Essentially, you have a rotational a motor. You've built a motor. And you run that at about 300 miles an hour. You're going to get 1 G. And you're right. And that's where the combined part comes in, because in orbit you need that 1 mile diameter circle to go 300 miles an hour. But on the moon you won't. But in order to do that calculation, you have to know the math of how they combine.
You get a sideways form.
Exactly. It's like when you have a string, when you have a string on a weight and you spin it slowly, it'll come out a little ways. You spin it faster, it comes out more and more. In order to get it 90 degrees to Earth, you have to spin it real fast, right? So on the moon and on Mars, I know for a fact that we can produce artificial gravity, but I can't do the calculations. And in order to reduce the structural requirements for a space station and allow the maximum volume of usable space inside, I have to describe to people who do know how to do the math what it is they refuse to see, because they're designing space stations that require everything to spin, when not every part of the space station has to spin. You see the problem I'm coming across? I can look up the centrifugal equations for artificial gravity, and I can access some of the information about graphic statics, which is how you design truss loads for bridges, right? Or bicycle wheel mathematics. I can only get some of them because the rest of it's all in copyrighted books that you have to pay for, and I can't chuck out from a library because I'm homeless and I'm not allowed to. And in fact, I've been kicked out of all the libraries in Ada County, including the college, because I disagree with them censoring YouTube comments. And I say hi to people, and they translate that I'm well, they're actually saying that I'm harassing women by saying hello and trying to be friendly and have a conversation with, various people. So I'm not allowed to talk to anyone. I'm not allowed to look at the books. I'm not allowed to comment on YouTube because they're paranoid and stupid. So I can't get to the material I need to get to in order to solve critical problems that legitimately, I can argue, solves a whole ton of different problems on Earth by allowing us expansion capacity for the human race and all kinds of different forms of life. Not to mention being able to bring back to Earth some small amounts of critical resources like rare earth materials. But then I would have to start to argue another point that I can't even get to in most conversations, like at all, because I can't even get past the initial stages, of the fact that Earth is getting bigger slowly over time, and that's why the dinosaurs were big. And that actually amounts to a big problem, because it means that we have to leave Earth relatively soon. And if we import material and we export material, we need a balance to the lesser. And that's a discussion I can't even get to people. Coriolis is one of the functions relevant to artificial gravity, and that's why that. But here's the thing about Coriolis force, right? And why space stations need to be big. In order that the human ear doesn't send crazy signals to the brain and make people seasick in artificial gravity, you need it to be a large diameter. In order to reduce the load requirements and get a large diameter, you need some of the necessary equipment that doesn't require itself to be in an artificial gravity environment to be built separate but part of the space station. You need a wheel inside of an enclosed space. The enclosed space provides artificial gravity, it provides life support, it provides power, it provides storage, and it provides the ability to grow plants and animals in a multi-gravitational environment available on an extra large space station.